Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary. Lots to cover today, guys. We're going to preview the upcoming official visit weekend, talk about some updates in the recruitment of some 4-stars that were on campus recently. We're going to calm the nerves about the Steve Pikiell UConn rumors. We're going to talk about some basketball players arriving, some basketball recruiting updates, and a big shout out to a recent Rutgers national champion from last night. We'll get into all that and more. But first, this podcast is presented to you by Night Apparel. Calling all Rutgers students, alumni, and fans. Are you looking for new and unique Rutgers merchandise? Night Apparel has you covered. From t-shirts and hoodies to drinkware and pet accessories, Night and Day focuses on providing the Rutgers community with exclusive, one-of-a-kind tailgating products. Be sure to check out the links in today's podcast description and to their website. And you can stay on top of everything Night and Day, including new merch drops and promotional announcements. If you use our promo code Rutgers Rivals, that's one word, no spaces, Rutgers Rivals, you get 10% off your purchase. Shop now and keep shopping. So let's start off right off the top. Big shout out to Chloe Timberg. She is the Rutgers track and field athlete who won a national championship last night in Eugene, Oregon. She's a pole vaulter on the Rutgers track and field team, and she demolished the competition in the pole vault. She set a meet record for the NCAA championships at 15 feet, 5.5 inches, which was almost 6 inches higher than the second place pole vaulter. According to Jerry Carino, this jump would have placed her 5th in the 2020 Olympics. So just a massive jump. She's only a junior too, so she has 1 year of eligibility remaining. I don't believe she qualified for the Olympics, but she did, attend qualifiers. So just wanted to shout out Chloe. I think she's the first national champion in Rutgers track in over 40 years. So huge accomplishment, and just wanted to start off by congratulating her and the Rutgers track and field team.
Yeah, it's cool because she also set the I'm looking now. She set the Big Ten record at 14:11, and then this one, I don't know what the hell she did different, but 15:1, and it's huge.
Yeah, and first team All-American this year, 3-time Big Ten champ.
Yeah,
she's going to go down as one of the best, most accomplished athletes in Rutgers history. So
yeah,
you didn't know about her, now you know.
History. I mean, third best in NCAA history all time. Like, that's pretty damn good.
Yep. So congratulations, Chloe, on the huge accomplishment. Let's pivot to this upcoming official visitor weekend. I think there's going to be 12 kids on campus, if I remember correctly.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, 12. I think
12 kids on campus. I believe 4 of them are already committed. So let's talk about the guys who are going to be on campus who are already committed. That is, so we have Talibi Kaba, the defensive lineman.
He was there last weekend, so that's 11. I take it back.
Okay, so that's incorrect.
That's the one that's incorrect. Yeah,
got it. So Sinead DeGraffenwright, who is the wide receiver out of Atlantic City, will be on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Elijah, the offensive tackle, will be on campus, who's a commit. The quarterback commit of this class, Shane Ashenfelder, will be on campus, and linebacker Isaiah Deloach from North Carolina will also be on campus. Just kind of a little inside baseball here, Richie. How do they decide who's going to be on campus in terms of commits versus non-commits? Is it just kind of like availability, trying to get these kids on campus, whatever fits for them?
So for example, we'll say Sean Ashenfelder, Florida kid. You're going to want him on campus when there's Florida offensive linemen or Florida other prospects from Florida. You want them to connect because this guy's already committed. He's locked in. He's been locked in forever. So you want him to connect with those guys. DeGraffenwright was more of just like, I need to figure out what weekend I can make it. And this was the weekend he can make it. Same thing you could say with Elijah, but you also want an offensive line commit with these guys too. So you kind of just mix and match. He's local too, Mattawan. Like, the guy can drive the Rutgers any day of the week for maybe 15, 20 minutes, 25 tops. And then Isaiah Deloach, for example, is very close with Tayshawn Alston, who's the edge rusher / linebacker from North Carolina coming up. You get him on campus because he's going to try to recruit him. That was actually one of the names that he said to us after he committed to Rutgers. He said, "I'm working on Tayshawn Alston. We've been training together for a while. I'm going to try to get him to join us." So just stuff like that. Mostly, it's just trying to connect guys with other regional guys, whether it be from Florida, North Carolina, etc. So that's just kind of how it works for the most part.
Gotcha. All right, let's run through who is going to be on campus, who is uncommitted. We'll just run through some names, and we could talk about those guys more after we get through it. So the first guy is Jaden Breaker. He is an outside linebacker out of South Gwinnett High School in Snellville, Georgia. Another Georgia kid going to be on campus. Mm-hmm. Joshua Blackston, the offensive tackle out of Dunbar High School in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yep.
We've got Yvonne Kemaju. He's a weak side defensive end out of Paint Branch High School in Burtonsville, Maryland. He is the lone 4-star who's going to be on campus. You've got Connor Howes, offensive tackle out of St. Cloud High School in St. Cloud, Florida. You've got Jarek Gordon, the offensive guard at a Trinity Catholic High School in Ocala, Florida. Mm-hmm. You've got Tayshawn Alston, the outside linebacker at Vance County High School in Henderson, North Carolina. He's the guy who has connections to a couple of the guys from North Carolina who are committed already. You got Tariq Hayer from St. John's College High School in Washington, D.C. He was a safety. And the final guy who's going to be on campus is Woody Kalusian from Miami Central High School in Miami, Florida. Out of all those guys, Rich, who would you say is possibly on commit watch after this visit?
Ooh, I'm going to say either of the Florida offensive guards. Now, you could take both, technically, and Jarek Gordon, and I say Solution, but I think that could be wrong. I don't really know. Yeah. Woody Solution or Jarek Gordon, I think either of them could be on commit watch. I think more so Gordon than Solution, because he's just been raving about Pat Flaherty and his prowess and his 40 years of coaching and Super Bowl rings, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Both these guys only have a Rutgers official visit right now. They don't have any other OVs set. So I wouldn't be shocked if they take both, but here's where it gets interesting. So they have 3 tackles on campus, right? One's committed, so that's locked in. You have 3 offensive linemen committed right now. 4 if you count Mir and Gurman, who could go either way. If Gurman goes offensive line, he's going to be an offensive tackle. So that's one offensive tackle. Elijah's locked in at offensive tackle. Chris Vigna and Nakeem Wynn are where it gets interesting. I think Nakeem Wynn's definitely a tackle, but he could also play guard because he's athletic enough, versatile enough. Chris Vigna is one that I probably have pegged for guard for now, but if he keeps growing, he's probably going to go back to tackle. He's also athletic. So it's a 2-sport athlete, long, lengthy arms. So this is where it gets interesting because if Vigna and Wynn are guards, then you have 2 and 2, 3 and 2 if you count Gurman. Then, do you take 2 guards? You're hosting 3 tackles, so it's like there's a lot that's kind of going into this one, and it's really going to be interesting to see who they take and if they take all 3 of these guys that are on or all 4 of these guys that are on campus, because you already have 18 commits. I don't know how many more linemen you can really take too.
I know, yeah, and you saw, the effects of that this week when a few of the guys who were scheduled to be on campus ended up canceling their official visits because the inn was filled up at their specific position.
Yeah.
So with 18 commitments in a class where you're not typically taking 25 high schoolers anymore, Shiano is a bit of an outlier in the sense where he still is taking close to that amount each year.
Yeah.
But you have to be very selective, and you only can take so many guys at each position. Who would you say is the top target coming on campus this weekend if you could just select one that is uncommitted for the staff?
One that's uncommitted. I mean, I like those offensive linemen, but I'm going to say on the flip side, it's going to be defense. It's Tayshawn Alston. Tayshawn Alston is a guy that they've been very high on for a long time now. The recruiting services are pretty high on him as well. Maybe not as high on him as Rutgers is, but this has been one of their top edge rusher targets all recruiting cycle. They've been after him for a while. Scott Vallone's done a great job in North Carolina. They've been building this bond. They got Isaiah Deloach, who's a close friend of his, been training with him for a while. You could argue Tariq Hayer because Ian Williams is one of those guys that canceled his visit. He's a Georgia safety. He told me he canceled his visit because Rutgers got a safety and they were only taking 1 this cycle. So the fact that they're still hosting Tariq Hayer is very interesting because, I mean, he's a borderline 4-star kid.
As is Tayshawn Alston, by the way.
Yeah, they're both right there. You could argue also Yvonne Kemaju out of Paint Branch. He's one of the fastest rising recruits in this cycle too. He went from unranked to high 3-star to net 4-star in this latest bump.
And he's a guy who just confirmed his official visit recently, right?
Yeah, so he didn't have one for this weekend for a couple of weeks now. He's still leaning Penn State, if I had to guess. He was there last weekend, but he wants to stay local. Doesn't really care about the recruiting stuff. Just wants to go on these visits just to make sure he knows where he wants to go. It's not like he's walking in like most of these kids and like, hey, how much can I get paid? Hey, how much am I going to play? What's your defensive line room look like? He's not afraid of the competition. He's a very humble kid. But yeah, it's all local visits. Penn State, Rutgers, Duke, Virginia Tech. So he wants to stay in that like DMV, PA, NJ type area. But yeah, so I mean, I'd say Tayshawn Alston's probably definitely the top target, but you could argue some others as well.
Yeah, if we're talking Tayshawn Alston, he made his first official visit of this year last weekend to South Carolina. He's visiting Rutgers this weekend. He's going to be at North Carolina next weekend, and the following weekend he's going to be at Virginia Tech. Those are the 4 official visits he has planned.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about Tyreek Hayer, he's going to be at Rutgers this weekend. He's got Michigan State next weekend. The weekend after that, he's going to be at Maryland, and he had an official visit to Cincinnati last weekend. Kemiju, like you said, he already kind of went through his official visits, but these are all top targets in the region. So Rutgers pulling in any of them would be a huge recruiting win. Is there anything else about this upcoming official visit weekend you wanted to touch on before we moving on to another topic here?
Just going through the list. I mean, Ashenfelder committed, DeGraff and Wright committed, Solution Gordon, I'd keep on commit watch. Blackston is Ohio State lean. He'll be there June 21st, so keep an eye on that. Connor Howes it's a tough one to get a read on. I know he likes Rutgers, but he does have some other official visits. I think he's heading to North Carolina State and Ole Miss. He was just at Arkansas too. Kemiju, like I said, Penn State lean for the time being. Rutgers could make up some ground there. Breaker, I'd say, is a back burner type guy. Maybe not a back burner. He's probably just a secondary option to Alston. I don't think they'll take both. They want Alston, and then Tyreek Hayer is kind of leaning Cincy, but it's his only official visit he's taken so far, so it's hard to really say right there.
Gotcha. Well, we will have updates on the visits as soon as the visits end, or if it's anything like last weekend, we might have some updates Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. So stay tuned to your podcast feed, stay tuned to the boards, because if you really want the news as it comes in, you got to be on the boards, because we post there immediately, and then these podcasts do take time, believe it or not, to record. We don't always have the foresight or the information ahead of time. Sometimes we do, and that's how we get those magic podcasts out, where the moment they actually announce, we published. But let's move on to some recruiting updates from visitors who visited last weekend. Let's start with Jaylene Matthews. This is a guy who he had his visit extend out later than all the other visitors because he had prom on Friday night. So he left campus on Monday. He had an announcement scheduled for Wednesday, the 5th. That came and went, obviously. And now he has another announcement on June 11th with a top 3 that does not include Rutgers. So, Rich, what are you hearing about the Jaylene Matthews saga, I guess we'll call it at this point?
Yeah.
And where do you see him ending up?
That's one way to put it. This recruitment, we've been very adamant, even like when we did post about him. I've said it every single time I post about him. This recruitment has taken every twist and turn possible. Like we said previously, he was committed to Penn State, started talking about taking other visits. Penn State's like, we don't do that here. Like, that's just similar to Rutgers. Rutgers doesn't do it either. If you're committed, you're committed. You're not going to go with your girlfriend and then go on a date with another girl at the same time, or like a week later. But yeah, no. So he ended up decommitting, went on visits to Georgia, Maryland. It sounded like Georgia was in the driver's seat. Georgia does pretty well with guys his size that have the size factor in high school, especially from Jersey. I don't know if you remember the late Devin Willock. They landed him. He was actually making some noise. They were also they're pushing Malachi Goodman, another Paramus Catholic kid. Now they're pushing Jaylene Matthews. And then All of a sudden, Georgia's like, nah, we got some other guys. Screw it. We don't need them. So Georgia's kind of on the back burner. Now, Georgia's still in his top 3 heading into this one, but I do not expect the Bulldogs to be anywhere near this one. Then we started hearing some talk about he was going to decide June 3rd. And the original date was June 3rd. It was going to be Tennessee, 100% Tennessee Volunteers. They got him, locked him in. You started seeing some future casts out there, and they just started backing off. Now, I think this is more so of a case of where it's Matthews telling the school he wants to commit, and then the school's like, hold on, let us look. Let's see what our board looks like right now. Hold on, we still got some other targets on the board. Then there was the talk that he was going to commit to Rutgers on the 5th, following the official visit. Same case. It sounds like Rutgers is now out 100%. I shouldn't say it sounds like. He's told me Rutgers is out of this one, and now he's heading into this weekend.
Do you think that could be a smokescreen? Like he wants to build, drama and then announce for Rutgers, or does that not sound like it?
Nothing would surprise me with this one. It wouldn't shock me if he committed to Rutgers, to be honest with you. At this point, it's
but he's told you directly Rutgers is out.
Yeah, I made a graphic for him. I tweeted out this morning, and he's like, "Hey, here's my top 3. Here's the commitment date. Can you make me a graphic? Sure. Here you go. Done." Top 3 is Georgia, Tennessee, Miami. He's supposed to go to Miami this weekend. I was told by one source that all the official visits are off currently. I'm told by another source that he's heading to Miami this weekend. He goes to Miami, they're taking him. That's it. Game over. Lock it in for now, because I could see him decommitting again down the line. This is just one of those recruitments that you see him every cycle. And it's craziness. It's just constant changing, and you're not sure what you want to do. Maybe you want to go somewhere else, but they can't take you. So now you're kind of on your other options. You're like, I still want to go there, but I can't go there. Now I have to go between these 3. I'll go to this one for now, hold my spot. Because that's what a lot of kids do now. You have to hold your spot. Yeah. It's insane, but crazy recruitment. I don't know what the hell is going to happen, but as of right now, June 11th, noon, Toms River North High School. I'll probably end up going, because even if it is Miami, they're not going to send a guy all the way up here. I'll just go for them. But I don't know what the hell's going to happen with this one.
All right, so this is one that's taking a lot of twists and turns. Stay tuned to the boards and your podcast feeds, because who knows? It could be Rutgers, but Richie was told directly that it was not going to be Rutgers. So if it ends up happening, it's smokescreen diversion.
Yep.
Let's talk about another 4-star who was on campus last weekend. This might be the yin to the yang of Jaylene Matthews, because things are looking brighter and brighter here for Rutgers' chances to land John Forster, the 4-star running back out of St. Joe's Montvale. Tell us what you're hearing about the Scarlet Knights and John Forster.
Yeah, so we posted an update on him yesterday, and also in the war room as well. Rutgers is in a very good spot with him. So good that Kayvon Mason, the 2025 running back target, has canceled his official visit for this weekend. And it sounds like the only official visitor at running back they'll have this summer is John Forster. They're all in on Forster. They've done a great job with him. He told me that the visit was amazing, and it's literally everything he could ask for. That was like, not that he's not going to say the perfect visit, but it's damn close to saying that it was a perfect visit. So he actually had his 2 brothers on campus with him instead of parents. Sometimes people do that. You could bring your friends. You're allowed 2 guests per official visit. So he brought his younger brother, who's a 2028 athlete, and Rutgers offered actually following the visit.
And mind you, this is an 8th grader right now. Yeah. So if you're getting offered as an 8th grader, and I think he's 6'4", right?
It's the complete opposite of John Forster, which is funny.
So he is going to be a big time recruit.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to be a huge recruit. He's also going to St. Joe's. 6'4", obviously, he's not going to be a running back. He's going to be a receiver. But he also had his older brother on campus with him as well. I think his older brother plays D2 or D3. I forget. Okay. Let's see if I can pop up a picture. I'm going to pop it up real quick. I don't know where the younger brother got his genes from, but like the kid's so much taller than the other 2.
Oh my gosh, the younger brother's on the right there?
Yeah, no, the younger brother's on the right. Oh yeah,
that's what I said.
That's what you just said. Yeah, I'm dumb. But yeah, the other 2, it's like that one. Those 2 make sense. Similar height, similar build, and then all of a sudden the other brother's just like boom, 6'4". Like
yeah, he is huge. Jeez.
Yeah, so that's a 8th grader, mind you. So it's going to be crazy. But yeah, the older brother plays for Pace University. Obviously not a Rutgers recruit, but it's just good to get in with the family. Now, things have changed a bit with his visitor list. He was supposed to go to his official visitor list was Rutgers, Illinois, Wisconsin, and West Virginia. West Virginia landed a running back last weekend, so they're out. They canceled. Wisconsin has Byron Lewis, who's a top 150 kid on campus today, or starting today. And they also have I think it's Gilgis Knight. I forget his name exactly. I try not to, I don't follow any other recruiting, to be honest with you, other than Rutgers,
well,
Penn State,
except
local,
UConn
regionally.
and Penn State.
Yeah, just regionally. Like, I'm not going to go follow like a random Midwest kid that doesn't have Rutgers or Penn State or UConn offer. But so they're going to host those guys. That's their focus right now for Wisconsin. They're actually pretty confident they're going to land that top 150 kid. They're only taking one this cycle. They also have Javin Gordon on the back burner, who they could get like probably tomorrow if they wanted. So they're out. They canceled their official visits. Now it's down to Rutgers or Illinois. Illinois has done a great job of recruiting Jersey over the past couple years. Ironically, their lead recruiter for New Jersey is a guy named Artur Sikowski. Kind of weird. Yeah, he's not even technically an assistant coach, but he's one of those guys he's like a Scott Vallone type or Charlie Noonan type, where they promote him to go on the road.
Interesting.
So they're doing really well with him. It's going to come down to those two. I think Rutgers could pretty easily beat out Illinois. That's just my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see. He does want to take this visit this weekend. As long as he makes that visit, they're going to be a threat. But I still don't think they're that much of a threat. I still think Rutgers is in a really good spot, and I'm like very close to future casting Forster to Rutgers.
That'd be a massive commitment. He is ranked 5th in the state. He'd be the first 4-star commitment of the class. He had, St. Joe's had an incredible backfield last year with him and Yassine Willis. And just watching their tape, I think Forster looks better than Willis personally. And Willis was, I think, the number 1 kid in the state last year.
I still think Willis ends up at linebacker personally, but
yeah. So visiting Illinois this weekend, we could be hearing some news about him in the near future, though, depending on how things go. So stay tuned again to the boards and to your podcast feeds regarding his recruitment. That's the entire football bag I got. Is there anything else football related you wanted to touch on before we switch over to some hoops?
Looking around, I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. I think we covered just about everything.
Perfect. All right, let's transition over to some basketball news, starting with the UConn Huskies, who their coach, Dan Hurley, obviously won back-to-back national championships, revitalized their program, really cemented their status as a true blue blood. Not that they weren't already, but I think that they were kind of considered like a new blood and hadn't really done much in the last decade. That has certainly changed now. Sounds like he's going to land with the Lakers as their next head coach. The rumors have already started about Pikiell being on the short list for that job. Why don't you tell everybody why that isn't going to happen?
Well, I'll tell you for starters, if Hurley leaves, as a lot of people are expecting him to, and he's going to go to the Lakers, I mean, number one, it's the Lakers. Like, how do you turn down the Lakers? Like, I get LeBron's a pain in the ass, and you might only be there for a couple years if you don't coach correctly or win games at least. But it's still the Los Angeles Lakers. I think you could argue that might be the top job in all of basketball.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue otherwise, actually. But regardless, if he does leave, they're going to go in-house, it sounds like, with Luke Murray and Kamani Young, their 2 assistant coaches, being the top 2 targets. Now, mind you, Luke Murray is the man behind the offense up there, so he could technically go with Hurley to LA, and I wouldn't blame him. I mean, I think this might be some of these guys' only shot to get into the league. Like, and then once you're in the league, if you make a name for yourself as an assistant coach, we see it all the time. Like the Brooklyn Nets, for example, the assistant coach of the Suns is now their head coach. He made a name for himself. Happens all the time, and plus you don't have to deal with all the other stuff that's going on. But I don't see Steve Pikiell. Now, Steve Pikiell's probably going to be on a lot of hot boards. I'll tell you right now, he's on the UConn Rivals hot board if it ends up being posted. Just because of the connections, he's local, he's a Calhoun guy, played at UConn, coached at UConn. It makes a lot of sense. But UConn's all about offense, number one, so they're not going to go after a defensive guy and just change their whole entire mindset. Number two, they want a guy that's going to keep their roster intact, and that's why you do an in-house hire. I know people are throwing up Kyle Flood memes on our board saying like, in-house hire, ha ha ha. Like, and it's completely different. But regardless, Steve Pikiell's at Rutgers for as long as he wants to be at Rutgers. Steve Pikiell's not going anywhere. This is not, I wouldn't, it's hard to say. I think going into this job, I don't think I would have said this was Steve Pikiell's dream job. I think now that he's been here for a while and now that he's being able to turn around the program, and he sees how much love people are getting for the program and for himself too. I think this is probably his dream job now. I don't think it was when he first came in, but I think this is now probably his dream job, and probably you could argue maybe his last head coaching job. I think he's here for as long as he wants to be on the banks. We've seen that based on the contract extensions he's been given. Hell, year after year at this point. He's broken records. He's set he killed the 30-year tournament drought, hit back-to-back tournaments. Technically, if COVID didn't hit, it would have been back-to-back tournaments. Something that, has Rutgers ever done 3 in a row tournaments? I don't think so, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know they've done back-to-back, but not back-to-back-to-backs, which technically you can argue. Yeah, and then on top of it, he's got the number 2 recruiting class in the country coming in with Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. It's just this would be the worst time to leave, honestly. Everything's set up for a big tournament run. I don't see it happening. I'd be shocked, completely shocked, if he were to leave Rutgers for UConn.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the culmination of his coaching career. Everything he's built in his entire career has led him to a team like this. He's not leaving right before this happens. And on the flip side, if you're UConn, you've built a really strong roster this year. You don't want to blow that team up either. You hire an outsider, that whole team leaves. And anybody who says, especially in the national media, Steve Pikiell, he's a UConn guy. You hire him, he would bring over Ace and Dylan. That's not happening.
Number one, that's not happening.
They're not just like up and leaving, on the drop of a dime because Steve Pikiell goes somewhere, and that's not happening anyway. So it's like, why are we even entertaining this? But I feel like we needed to talk about it because it's out there. National people are talking out of their asses. Big surprise. Guys like
Mike
John
DeCourcy,
Goodman.
I'm calling out. That's just a shitty comment. Like to say that, he could take them both with him. Like, number one, Ace is tied to Brandon Knight.
Yeah,
we know that. That's been a fact forever. He's not going anywhere. Brandon Knight's not going anywhere. Dylan Harper, you can argue the same thing.
And in the doomsday scenario where Pikiell does leave, which is not going to happen, who do you think they're going to name as the head coach? It's Brandon Knight. So he's keeping the team together regardless. So it's just the national media talking out of their ass. Big surprise. They're connecting dots and it's doing the easy thing, but that's not happening. So I don't want to give it any more oxygen. I just felt we needed to kind of touch on it.
No, I mean, like I said, Dylan Harper's even connected between Ron going to Rutgers, Brandon Knight being his main recruiter. Brandon Knight was Ron Harper Jr.'s main recruiter. Like, Brandon Knight is the glue to all this right now.
Yep.
Like, he's not, as long as Knight's there, they're not going anywhere. So the UConn fans can get that idea out of your head. Now, that being said, 100%. The UConn roster might blow up, like you said. So I'm just saying.
It's true.
Liam McNeely's there.
They do have some really good players on that team too, which, shocker, it's the defending back-to-back national champions. They have good players. Wild concept.
I mean, Pikiell's talking on all these articles and podcasts about Martini playing the 5. Maybe you don't need a 5. Fuck it, get McNeely.
Yeah, which would be nice, but I'm not holding my breath.
I know. I just spitballing.
Let's talk about some of the class of 2024 and some of these transfers arriving on campus over the last few days. Rutgers has had a lot of the guys report. So it started off with PJ Hayes. PJ Hayes made the trek from Minnesota to Piscataway for his move-in date. Tyson Acuff is now moved in, transfer, who was the 8th leading scorer in the nation last year. We have Dylan Grant, the freshman out of Canada. He is now on campus. Lathan Somerville arrived yesterday, I believe, on campus. Ace and Dylan were at the Morris County Card Show this past weekend. So I'm not sure if they're fully moved in yet. But everybody is scheduled to be on campus at the latest by June 15th. So any other guys I missed that have arrived so far?
I don't think so. How tall is Steve Pikiell? Because I need to put this in the
Steve
context.
Pikiell, I believe, is like 6'4", 6'5".
Okay, if Steve Pikiell's 6'4", How tall is Dylan Grant, man?
So Steve Pikiell's college basketball reference lists him at 6'4".
All right, if he's 6'4", and just for context, like 6'7".
Yeah, he's got to be 6'7", 6'8".
At least that's what I'm saying, and I've been saying that for a while now. Like he's gonna be a 4, man. Like he's huge. Like I told you, he was in the locker room, and people were like, "What the fuck?" Like, dude's huge, like big. So yeah, he's gonna be good.
He's a big guy. Be interesting to see how they utilize all these freshmen, and that's the thing. Like until everyone is on campus and on the same court, you really don't know like who's going to be the starters. Like, you kind of know some of the guys.
You can lock in 2, maybe 3.
Yeah,
right now.
But you don't know fully how these rotations are going to play out. So I do think a ton of optimism. Jerry Carino had a great article yesterday, kind of sat down with Pikiell talking about the excitement that's in the building. Aaron Brightman also had a great episode of the Scarlet Faithful podcast where he interviewed Pikiell yesterday. He did like a 40-minute interview. Said a lot of the same things on both platforms, just the excitement level, how all these guys have bought into different roles. And I thought one of the cool things he was talking about was like recruiting these transfers, where if the first thing that came out of their mouth was either money or how many shots am I going to get, you basically crossed them off the list. Like you wanted guys who wanted to be excited about playing a role on this team and that were excited about the opportunity at hand. And it sounds like they landed a bunch of those guys. And he talked about, how last year he learned a lot of lessons about last year, how he wanted his team basically put together early on. He wanted to get answers from guys who were coming or going pretty early. And he wanted to prioritize free throw shooting, experience, and leadership. And it sounds like he got all 3 of those things with a lot of the guys he landed. So I think we kind of talked about it, but I think last year was a huge blessing in disguise. Because if we had like somehow limped along and found a way to like sneak into the tournament, got knocked out in the first round, you might think to yourself, like, that was a formula that could have won if a few more things broke our way. With more talent, maybe we can make it work. But given last year really was a pretty big failure for a lot of reasons, I think that learning from those failures is really going to supercharge this team in 24-25.
Yeah. No, well, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Like you said, the rotations are a giant question mark, but you have so much depth this year. I don't think I've ever seen this much depth since I've started covering Rutgers.
Absolutely not.
Then there's just weapon after weapon. Dirkat can get to the rim. He can hit the occasional 3. PJ Hayes is a lights out 3-point shooter. Tyson Acuff can just score in general. And that's just your bench, basically.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Williams is just going to keep improving. And now that he's gotten a whole off season to being fully healthy, I think that's going to help some things. You don't have anyone sitting out the last 6 games of the season, we hope. So that's always nice. And I think some of these freshmen are going to play too. I think obviously Somerville's going to play a ton. I think Dylan Grant's going to play a lot. I think he's going to be a force on the boards. Not many times do you see a guy grab 18 plus rebounds in an EYBL game. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yep.
There's a reason he's ranked so high. And it didn't even play high school senior year and still got ranked high as hell. Yeah,
it's going to be a fun year. And can't wait to hear how things go in practice. And maybe, you get to go to those. Maybe I'll tag along for one of the practices.
Why not?
But let's talk about some recruiting news for hoops now. You learned that a top 2025 prospect has scheduled an official visit.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Mason Blackwood. He is a recent offer for Rutgers. Scheduled an official visit for the last weekend in June, I think it was. So technically he is a New York kid, but he's spending the year up at New Hampton Prep in New Hampshire. Plays for City Rocks. Rutgers has done a little bit more recruiting with City Rocks AAU program recently. It's an EYBL program, Albany City Rocks. Nothing crazy. I mean, they just offered, so that's where it gets a little bit interesting. He's a guard / wing. He's already 6'7", but he's listed as a shooting guard, which is probably not the case going forward. He's probably going to go to that 3 spot. It's interesting for the sole fact that he just added all these offers, and he added Northwestern, Boston College, Rutgers, Penn State, Wake Forest,
Marquette,
a bunch of other random lower schools.
But all these offers came within the last 3 weeks. So this is a guy who must have had some kind of breakout.
He's been going crazy on the EYBL circuit.
He's currently 135th nationally. I expect that ranking to rise pretty substantially. That last was updated on March 30th. But given the kind of attention he's getting now, it wouldn't surprise me at all if in the next update he's a 4-star kid.
Yeah, not at all. And Rutgers also recently offered his high school teammate and AAU teammate too, in Coach Tillery. He's a 3-star point guard who also plays for City Rocks. That kid's also added a million offers. These two have just kind of exploded on the scene recently. It's EYBL season, so it's not too shocking. You'll see a bunch of these offers. Rutgers has gotten to see him in person a couple times. I know Smoke went to go see both of them. So yeah, it's something to keep an eye on because they're starting to reshift their recruiting board a bit because they're still after the Darius Acuffs and the Trey McKinney's of the world, but they're not super realistic because they're going to get hefty NIL bags from wherever they go. So it is tough to. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to maintain that same recruiting where they're going to get the number 2 and 3 kid again, and that's very unheard of in the first place. But I still think they'll be very competitive for those top ranked kids. And I think you're going to see more like top 100 kids, which is still it's a step up from where it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. But speaking of Darius Acuff and Trey McKinney, I mean, if Rutgers doesn't land either of those kids, it's certainly not for lack of effort. Because right now, anybody who follows, the social media of maybe different coaches and players might have noticed that one of our assistant coaches was in Argentina yesterday. So Smoke Williamson is down at the FIBA U18 Americup. So what that is it's not the World Cup, the same thing that Pikiell and Brandon Knight were at last year. It is basically a regional cup. So it's basically countries from the North and South Americas. So the U.S. is the heavy favorite there. Smoke is down there to watch the U.S. guys and recruit them. And Darius Acuff and Trey McKinney. The other day, Darius Acuff had 23 points in 13 minutes against, I think, Belize, which isn't the strongest of competition. But starting today, the quarterfinals kick off, where the USA, I believe, is playing. I just had it open. USA is playing today at 11:40 a.m. If you want to check it out, if you go to FIBA's website. The U18 Americup website, I believe they have streams on there. But, these are the events too. Pikiell has talked about it in his interviews. They're going after more and more international guys. You saw, Victor Micic. He got an offer late, obviously, but they saw him in person playing for the Serbian under-17 team. There's a few guys that stood out in terms of just kind of looking at the stats of this U18 Americup tournament. There's a guy from Argentina. His name is Tyler Kropp. He's a 6'8" power forward. He's a class of 2025 kid, but he's currently leading the tournament in both scoring and rebounding. And Rutgers kind of has a connection there. So Rutgers is recruiting one of the top 2025 kids in the state of Ohio, who was on an official visit, who spoke very glowingly about Rutgers after that official visit, and Dorian Jones. This kid, Tyler Kropp, is on his AAU team. You want to tell us a little bit about Tyler Kropp?
Tyler Kropp is averaging what, like, well over a double
right
now.
He's I think 23 and 12 in this one.
It's something crazy. Like, if you look up on YouTube, like, there's highlights all over the place of him, just dominating. 6'9", 220, wing forward, kind of like an Ace Bailey type build. I don't think that 220 is legit. I think he's a little skinnier than that, but you could say that for just about every kid at that age level. Just a true scorer, can do a little bit of anything, can drive to the rim, can score, can drive to the rim, can hit the mid-range, pretty solid passer too. He's shooting 48% through 3 games and has a total of 71 points in this Americup event. If he's not going to get some more high majors offers after this, I don't know what it's going to take, because it's just between that and averaging 22 and 11 in his high school season this past year, the kid is just dominating everywhere he goes. I don't even know what else to say about him other than he's damn good.
Yeah. He's currently not ranked, I believe, in the 2025 class, but it wouldn't surprise me if he starts reeling in more and more offers, because these are some really impressive numbers to be putting up on the international.
That's a kid who's going to jump up the list easily.
Yep, and he actually plays high school ball, like I said, in the U.S. He goes to Olentangy Liberty High School. That's in Powell, Ohio. Powell, I don't know exactly where that is.
I don't either, but I know Olentangy has a pretty decent football program. So
okay, so that's one name to watch. Obviously, we're still waiting to see if Victor Micic will be on an official visit anytime soon. I can't imagine he won't. So Olentangy is just north of Columbus, about a half hour outside of Columbus. So that's that. Is there anything we didn't hit on today, Rich, that you wanted to cover?
Not that I could think of. I'm looking through the boards right now. No, that's really it. We're just kind of waiting on some Mikic news. I'm assuming we'll get some of that soon, but it's hard to say. I know he's still their top target as of right now for big man spot. But now you kind of maybe wait a little bit, because they're not. It's super unlikely they're going to get any of the UConn guys. But if UConn loses Dan Hurley, those guys are open to leaving. So that's where it gets interesting. Yep. So I mean, you definitely have to reach out, or at least if, like, say McNeely enters the portal, I'm sure he's tired of this shit. Like, he's like, oh, I was with Mike Woodson, that team blew up, then I left. Now I'm at UConn, that teams might blow up, and I might just leave again. Dylan Harper was recruiting him very heavily, so was Ace Bailey, before he committed to UConn. So never say never, but I would maybe pump the brakes a little bit, because, like, now that you hear Pikiell talking about more and more about Martini playing some 5, along with Ogbol and Somerville, that's where things get a little bit more interesting. Now you can kind of wait and see, and just you never know. Honestly, you just never know. So college basketball is insane, and I thought we were done with the portal, but apparently not.
Yeah, things are always changing, so you just really never know, like you said. Yeah. But that is all we got for today, guys. I want to thank everybody once again for listening. Anybody who has liked our videos, subscribed on YouTube, huge help to growing the channel. Anybody who has subscribed to us on your favorite podcast feed or rated and review us, we also want to thank you. You guys really have helped the show grow tremendously, and we say it every time, but we're planning for some big time growth this upcoming season. We've been kicking around some different ideas for things that we might want to do this upcoming year. So just stay tuned, because we might have some big time not changes, but some cool stuff we want to do this year.
Yeah, sure.
But for me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.